When your new baby is born, there will be a complex range of emotions that you're going to feel. And that is due to a few different factors. This is something that I've experienced with all 5 of my births, that I've experienced with all of my clients that I've worked with as a doula. And then I'm also a licensed hypnotherapist, and so I've dealt with a lot of this with a lot of my clients there as well. There are 2 main factors that come into play, and one of them is hormones, and the other one is life change. And the hormones kind of fuel the emotion behind the life change. I wanted to address those 2 factors because I know a lot of women, and a lot, I mean almost every woman, goes through a period of time when they feel off after they have a baby. And this is not to downplay the amazing joy and just ecstaticness of having this new person in your life. I mean, there's nothing that compares to that. But you have these hormones that are going crazy, and you have this life change that definitely together, those really do cause some havoc in your life once you have this new baby. How wonderful would it be if we just got to have our baby and not have to deal with all of that stuff? It would be amazing, but like most things in life, you have to take ups with downs, and it kind of balances things out, and it's just kind of the way life plays out. I want to first say that a lot of women I've met felt like they were alone going through this, or they felt guilty not being on top of the world, happy once they have their new baby, and they can't quite put their finger on what's going on. So I want to let you know that you're not alone. There is a very complex range of emotions that happen, and a lot of that is due to the fluctuation of hormones, your hormones trying to level themselves out. You have these incredible hormones that help sustain your pregnancy, and then this whole new rush of hormones that come in when you birth your child. And then they start trying to level themselves out. Of course, you're trying to produce milk. It is very synergistic, and it is very dramatic after birth. And it does leave a lot of women feeling sad or uncomfortable, or just a lot of women call it just being off. And of course, you look at it and you say, well, of course, you just had a new baby, things change. And that's the other component that I want to talk to you about too. You have a life change, a very dramatic life change. And whether this is your first child or your 5th child, it's going to change your life in certain ways, and that's an adjustment as well. So I'm going to start with hormones. You have these hormones that need to go back down to where they need to be postpartum. And that fluctuation that you're going to have is going to come in waves, and it's going to feel like kind of dramatic mood swings for some women. And sometimes it's sad mood swings, sometimes it's really happy. I know with my children, I would just start crying at the drop of a hat because I was so happy that I had made this child, and I felt kind of unworthy, you know? Like, how did I get so lucky, right? And so that's kind of my baby blues, I guess you can call it, where I was just so happy and feeling undeserving. And then, of course, any kind of commercial or anything like that that was sad, set me off. So it was just kind of more touchy. I was very touchy with my feelings. And some women experience it all the way to full-blown depression. I do want to insert a small caveat here. If you ever feel like harming yourself, another person, the baby, then that's when these postpartum baby blues or depression have gone to a different level that you do need to seek some sort of help. whether it be a family member or a friend, that can maybe steer you in the direction of a professional that can help you work through it. There is a wide spectrum of emotions that do happen, and a lot of that is due to hormone changes. So I don't want you to feel like you're alone in this. Some of these things, they're just out of your control, and the only thing you can do is kind of ride them out. What I tell a lot of my clients is it usually passes within about 2 weeks. Now, this is not steadfast for every woman, but from my personal experience and the experience that I've had with my clients, 2 weeks seems to be about the right time that hormones start to calm down. Here's my suggestion on what to do to handle those hormones. And this has worked amazingly well for me and the people that I've shared this with. So if you separate yourself from your hormones, objectively look at your hormones as something separate from you. And when you have this rush of emotion, whether it be angry or sad or undeserving, remember that this is your hormones. And objectively look at it as that. Say, wow, these amazing hormones helped me through my pregnancy and birth. And now they're leveling out and they are causing some massive havoc inside of me right now. I can feel it and I recognize it, but I'm not going to let it overcome me. That's something that I use a lot. I recognize it for what it is, kind of separate myself from it, disassociate myself from it, and then look at it as something objective and appreciate it for what it's done and understand what it's doing. I know that might sound kind of weird to some people, but it really does help. It really helps because then you kind of understand what's going on and you can relax and know this will pass. Be excited for your baby. And then when those feelings come over you, disassociate yourself from them because you know they have no validity. It's literally just hormones bubbling up in your system and needing to calm down. So it's worked for me. I hope that helps you. Now, tackling the second factor, which is life change. Whether you are a first-time mom or you have multiple children, there is going to be a massive life change. I remember when I had my first son, I was so used to just getting up, grabbing my purse, and taking off to wherever I wanted to go. Obviously, once you have a baby, that is not the case. There are many other things that you need to think about before you can just get up and go. Also, once you have your baby, there's a time period that most women like to just stay in the house, make sure their baby is, warm and not around germs, and that's different for everybody. Some women go out 2 days after birth, some women wait a month, and that's completely up to you. But there sometimes is a feeling of isolation that brings with it. And when you realize that you can't just get up and run to the grocery store or go see your friend for coffee, and you start feeling a little isolated and you start realizing that your life is going to change. Well, I always tell my kids, all good things come with a price. And you have this new beautiful baby, and there are some concessions that you're going to have to make in order to make sure that that baby is healthy and well. And again, to what extreme you take that is completely up to you. Some women strap their newborn on their back and go and don't skip a beat at all, and that's great for them. Some women like to stay home. I like to give it about 2 weeks before I introduce my baby into the world. And 2 weeks staying home and contemplating how your life has changed can get a little daunting for some. And that kind of feeds into the baby blues as well. If you are a mom of multiple children, that comes with a whole different set of challenges as well. Because if you're maybe used to cooking your family dinner every night, well, you may not be able to do that for the first few days or week or 2 weeks. If you're used to helping your children with their homework, you may not have that availability once your baby's born to be able to do that right away. And so you might feel guilty. Life isn't going on as it used to for not only you, but for your children. You may be worried about how that affects them. But having a new baby in a big family, and I'm used to it. Like I said, we have 5 children. It is a family event. Preparing your children for that, and I know a lot of you do, and saying, hey, I might not be available as often as I am now, but that will go back to normal. Just give me a little bit of time, and it will go back to normal. Asking for help is huge as well. I always cook dinner for my family, and I felt really guilty when our 5th child was born, not being able to give my family the healthy vegan food that we usually have. And I just had to be okay with ordering food in. And everybody kind of plays their part in making sure that there is a new norm being made. Life doesn't always go back to the way it was after a new child was born, but you will form a new normal that will feel just as amazing. But have faith that it will kind of organically create itself. So if you are a very type A personality and you want to really construct this new normal, well, you might be fighting a losing battle there. And that might also play into your baby blues because, with babies and children, life, a lot of these things have to play out on their own. So I know this might be frustrating for some of you, but it also might be really comforting because while you may not be able to quite orchestrate how things are going to go, they will fall into place themselves and a new norm will form and everyone will be happy. But it will take a little bit of patience and a little bit of time. Something I wanted to talk to you guys about with that is a trick that I use and I've used with my clients to help get over the hump of this almost strange new world, this strange new life that happens after a baby's born that might feel really unfamiliar to you and uncomfortable. Something that I do is I try to take either a book series or a television series and carry it over from my pregnancy through when the baby's born and on. And this will hopefully make a little sense to you when I explain it. So if you have your norm going on through your pregnancy, obviously it's going to be a little bit different because you're hugely pregnant. But if you start a book series, maybe one that you've already read or one that you've heard is very light and happy, keep it on those kind of terms. And you start reading it through maybe the last trimester and it carries over through when you have the baby. You will have this kind of friend, this familiar that will be with you after you have the baby. And that's number one with that. Number two is that you'll have something to do when you're rocking the baby to sleep at 2:00 in the morning and you're all by yourself with this newborn and you feel lonely. You have this book. And I don't know about you, but books have always been like a warm blanket and a good friend for me. So if you pick the right book, and like I said, keep it on the happy end, then you'll have that friend with you that has carried over from pregnancy through your postpartum time. And the same thing goes if you're not a reader and you want to do it with a television show. I did it for one of my babies with the television show, The Gilmore Girls. I think it was on Netflix, and I was able to get through the series. And at night when I couldn't sleep because I was so pregnant, I'd go downstairs and I'd watch an episode and then fall asleep. And then after the baby was born, while I was rocking him to sleep, I was watching it, and it really was comforting. So I hope that makes sense to you. And I feel like it does once you start doing it. You're just taking something with you that is a comfort when things are very unstable in your life or they feel unstable in your life. But that's one other thing I want to remind you of. Like I talked about with the emotions from the hormones, if you can disassociate yourself from it and look at it objectively and say, these are just hormones, you can do the same with the life change and say, hey, yes, we've just gone through a change in our family dynamic. And because of that, other things are going to change. But that doesn't mean it's going to change for the worst. And it doesn't mean it's not going to get back to a place of comfort and joy. It just means it's going to evolve into something even more beautiful. So if you look at it objectively like that and hold on to those thoughts, which are completely true, then you will get through postpartum blues quite easily. Now, I do again want to remind you, if you feel like hurting yourself, hurting your baby, or hurting someone else, then that is when you need to reach out to a friend, a neighbor, a family member, and so that they can help get you the medical attention that you might need just to get past that period. Some women have a harder time getting past this time, and that's okay. It's just a matter of making sure that you take the steps to take care of yourself. I hope these tips have helped you. Just know that you're not alone. Every woman throughout history has gone through all these crazy fluctuations in hormones and life changes, and they all deal with it in different ways. But I hope that some of these tips will help you get through that, and so that you can just spend time enjoying your little baby. Thank you for watching, and until next time, be well.